If I'm ruffling some feathers, that's okay. We can brush those feathers out, but I'm going to hold you all accountable. Hey you all, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I'm Don, and today's video is going to be all about making friends and pitfalls to avoid when making friendships. This is a really important topic that I want to discuss because May is Mental Health Month. As you may or may not know, 21% of US adults live with a mental health condition, and 46% of Americans will meet the criteria for a diagnosable mental health condition at some point in their life. Which is why I love Mental Health of America's theme for this year, which is back to the basics or back to basics. And that's so important because it covered things like nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management, coping skills, and social connectedness, and building a support system. And that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on building a support system through building friendships. And I'm focusing on friendships because 1 in 3 Americans say that they feel alone. So it's important that we help individuals increase their social connectedness with individuals in their life, or introducing new relationships and establishing new relationships in their life where they can feel connected. Connectedness is important because loneliness is bad for your health. In fact, loneliness can have the same impact on your body as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So clearly it's important for us to have significant, meaningful social connectedness and relationships in our life. It also shows that loneliness can increase or worsen a mental or physical condition. So again, it's so important that we are being intentional about building relationships, maintaining relationships, building a sense of connectedness. And so for individuals who may be thinking, I don't have meaningful relationships, I want to share some tips today that will help you. And then I also want you to stay until the end of the video because I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about a support group that I am establishing for individuals who are interested in increasing or repairing friendships in their life or establishing new friendships in their life. So without further ado, let's talk about some ways in which we can increase our friendships by avoiding 10 pitfalls. That's right. Let's review 10 pitfalls to avoid when establishing new friendships. The first pitfall is going to be excluding coworkers in the workplace as an option of finding friends. We spend 1/3 of our life at work, so it is important that we are first and foremost working at a place that we really enjoy, that we really value. But statistics show that individuals spend the most time with their coworkers. So this is a really pivotal moment. It's a really crucial moment for us to maximize that time. I know there's so many memes out there that's saying, I leave work at work, and as soon as 5 o'clock hits, you're running out the door and you don't want your coworkers following you on social media, and you don't want to hang out with them after work, but you could be missing out on something extremely special. So I encourage you to identify coworkers who may be worth getting to know a little bit more and seeing where it goes. The second one is going to be declining social outings or declining invitations for social outings. Now, I know that there's a huge promotion for being a homebody and for being an introvert, which is cool. A lot of you all may not know, I actually have a lot of introverted tendencies. I don't identify as introverted or extroverted. I know that I have both traits, and there are moments where I really appreciate being extroverted, and there are moments that I really appreciate being introverted. And so we need a healthy amount of both. But I'm speaking to the individuals who always say no to that invite to go to happy hour, or that invite to go to the social gathering, whether it's at a church or maybe it's at a block party. I don't know why block party came to mind, maybe because like I live in a residential neighborhood now, but there are so many invites that we receive that we just kind of glance over or we overlook, and I really want to discourage you from doing that. The third one is a little bit tricky because at some point you do want to grow in your intimacy and relationships, but remember, this is at the beginning, this is initiating a friendship or a relationship. And that is, we don't want to over or under share. I'm going to put more of an emphasis on overshare, but I will also say undershare as well, because we don't want to overshare, because if we overshare, that can really create a sense of burden. It could also make someone feel uncomfortable. If the conversation goes that way and you just really connect with that person, like if you're in a small group and you have like a 2-minute exercise and you're supposed to share something about yourself, and maybe you're with a classmate, that's wouldn't necessarily be the best time to share a huge hardship in your life, because there's not really enough time to process that and to receive support. And it's kind of unfair for the other person, and it's just not the setting for that. The same goes for undersharing. If someone is sharing, especially if perhaps it's a part of it's reached a part of or a time frame within a relationship where like you're starting to share more, you're starting to be vulnerable, you're kind of increasing your levels of friendship. And I'll do another video on that, on like the 4 levels of a friend. And you're getting to that level where like transparency and vulnerability is expected, and one person is beginning to do that. You don't want to leave them hanging. You want to show up, and you want to be able to match and reciprocate what's being shared. That doesn't mean you have to share your deepest, darkest secrets, and that doesn't mean you have to pull things out of thin air if you don't have anything to share. But it is recognizing that, and it doesn't even always have to be so deep. If you are meeting someone for the first time and they're trying to make an effort, I've been in settings where I could tell that the person just kind of was not interested in speaking with me, or at least that's the vibe that I got, because when I asked questions about them, they would just give one-worded answers. They'd be very short, and it just was like they didn't really even want to engage. And these are just like simple questions like, what do you like to do for fun? Or what's a good book you're reading currently, or something like that. And that leads me to my next point. Don't force yourself onto people. It would have been me forcing myself on that person if I would have continued and tried to draw more information out of them. It was clear that the person was not interested in talking, or maybe they were interested in talking, but just wasn't at a phase in their life where they could share, where they could engage in a conversation. Social anxiety is real, social awkwardness is real, and so it's important to pick up on cues like that and to know when to take a step back. But also knowing when perhaps that's not the case, that person's not dealing with those things, and perhaps you notice how they are with other people versus how they are with you. And I think that causes a lot of sadness, and we find ourselves in one-sided relationships because we've kind of forced ourselves onto someone. They didn't give us any indicator that they wanted to be our friend, but for whatever reason, we wanted to be their friend and we wanted them to be our friend. We begin overcompensating for that other person. So it's important to be able to walk away when it's just not for you. It's not for you, and knowing that's okay. Next tip is kind of on the flip side of the previous point, and that is making sure that we're not treating a social encounter as an interview. Now, this is something that I had to learn because I was the type that would and these are just things that I am just naturally curious about. I'm not trying to size anyone up, but because I love professional development and things, I was finding that my questions in social settings were almost like interview questions. Like I'd ask, what are your goals? And what would you consider your strengths? What are things that you are good at? And also asking about a person's academic and professional journey. Oh, what are you in school for? And how long have you been in this profession? And things of that nature. And sometimes people want a break from that and so it's important to make sure that you're not treating the social encounter as an interview. And I think sometimes asking a lot of questions can come off as an interview. And so instead, what we can do is maybe find a common interest and build from there. So if a person mentions that they enjoy sports, maybe you don't enjoy sports, but if you saw if maybe you saw the Super Bowl, you can talk about that. Or maybe you were a bystander for March Madness, then you can kind of broach that topic. So whatever the case is, you find a way to naturally discuss it a little bit, because you do want it to be a two-way street. When you're having conversations, you don't want it to just be about things that you're interested in. You also want it to be about things that they're interested in. Sticking to this theme, you don't want to be hypercritical or judgmental. That is a huge one, and for me personally, that's a huge turnoff. When somebody's talking to me about someone else, you're telling me everything that I need to know about you. And so when someone's bad mouthing someone to me, I don't even let them finish. I remove myself from that situation, and it's really hard for someone to recover after doing something like that. And a lot of other people are like that, and it's kind of part of that first impression. If you are talking about someone's appearance or their presentation or their background, if you know them, then that could be negatively perceived. So I'd encourage you to stay away from that. Other things that could be hypercritical include if perhaps someone has a different viewpoint than you, or they approach life differently, or maybe they've experienced life, and so refraining from comments that could be hurtful or harmful to someone, especially discussing it to someone that may not be involved, because you're thinking that that's a way of connecting when that could be putting a wedge between you and someone that could be really good for you. The next tip is going to be making sure that we do not let our insecurities get the best of us. I think people talk about people because of their own insecurities. I also think people avoid social outings and encounters because of their insecurities. And so I want to encourage you not to allow your insecurities to get the best of you. A short but perhaps meaningful task worth exploring more, maybe with a therapist or in the group if you decide to join the group, which I'm going to share a little bit more about soon, which is the fact that most insecurities that we have are our inner critic, and it's not an external critic. And so it's important that we do the inner work to silence our inner critic, because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and we can self-sabotage and we can self-loathe, and that only hurts us. And so I want to encourage you to make sure that you do not allow your insecurities to get the best of you. The next one is going to be being negative. Being negative, that energy is contagious, as we know, and there is a huge wave for protecting one's energy. So if someone is sensing that you are negative, this is someone who perhaps finds the negativity in everything. You know, this is the person who the cup is always half empty, or there's always something that went wrong, or that they find themselves in conflict often. Let's try not to bring these situations into our social encounters, because we don't want to, because people don't want to be around that. And if you're being rude to a service worker, if you're being rude to your neighbors, for me, a huge one is, and this is perhaps another video, but you know, I think about dating advice that I want to give my son when he's older, and it's advice that I use myself, and it is how individuals treat their loved ones. You know, how are you engaged with your parents? How are you engaged with your siblings? People who've known you literally your entire life. If you're rude to them, if you can curse them out, if you can just write them off in a, you know, in just one situation, you can cut them off and detach from them. Those are some major red flags. So I'm going to encourage you again to make sure that we are being positive, that we are being kind, that we are being considerate, and that we are leaving the negativity at the door, leaving the negativity in our journals, taking the negativity to therapy, to process, and making sure that we are showing up in the best way possible to maximize our social encounters with people that we want to be friends with, that we want to be in our lives. I'm on my last two, and the second to last tip is going to be limiting friendships based on proximity or location. Do not do this. Do not make this mistake. Avoid this pitfall, because I have met some of the coolest people who live across the country, and it's been a pleasant surprise to connect with so many of you. I've met individuals from Delaware, from Michigan, from Ohio, from California. I'm getting ready to meet someone from New York. I'm getting ready to meet someone from New Jersey. And I absolutely love meeting you all. And every single region that I mentioned or location that I mentioned, I'm friends with these people. It started out whether it was us just being mutually connected on social media or someone being a subscriber to the channel. So I do take my relationships with you all seriously and love connecting with you all. And again, if I'd been like, oh, this person's far away, there's no sense in like checking in with them or like responding to you all's messages, then I would not have the relationships that I have now. And I absolutely cherish you all so much. It's important that you don't limit relationships and friendships based on proximity. And the last one, which is arguably the most important, I won't say it's the most important one, but it's a major one, and that is ghosting your friends. Do not do this. Do not ghost. Do not disappear. Do not vanish, because that is the worst thing that you can do if you are looking for a friend. If you have trouble with follow-throughs, be intentional about scheduling times to respond to people. I can say personally that I've been ghosted a few times and then I've been zombied a few times, and it's like, dude, where were you? Like, and this is something that's really important because I know everybody's like, oh, there's this way for attaching from your phone and not answering the call and the text and things. And that's cool, that's fine. But there's a difference between taking a step back and ignoring someone. And when you ghost someone, that's a form of ignoring. So if I'm ruffling some feathers, that's okay. We can brush those feathers out, but I'm going to hold you all accountable and say that it's okay to say, hey, I'm taking a step back. Keep me in your thoughts, keep me in your prayers, whatever you need to say to that friend who is concerned about you, who care about you, who's worried about you when they are not hearing from you, when they are not hearing from you. It's important that you are keeping people up to date with how you're doing, and even if you don't want to share with them how you're doing, that's fine. But let them know, hey, I got your message. I am taking some time to reflect, and I don't know when I'm going to resurface, but I just wanted to let you know. That's okay. I'd even encourage people sending out a message to people that they know are in their corner, saying that, because then you're at least being intentional about, and it's not so much isolation as it is of you just kind of taking some you time and taking some time to be introspective and to kind of gain clarity. That's okay, but there is a right way to do that. And that concludes the video. So if you made it this far, this is a pretty long video, but I thought that this was a really important and necessary video for me to create. And to conclude, I'd like to say that I am starting a Navigating Friendship support group. I'll insert a flyer here. And it's important for us to remember the importance of establishing and maintaining friendships, because it's good for our soul, it's good for our health, it's good for our mental health. So if you are someone who could use help establishing relationships or navigating some relationships, whether it's a new relationship or it's an end of a relationship, then this is the group for you. If you're interested in that, then please look in the description box and or the comment section, and I'm going to share my email. I'll also place it here. If you want to learn more information, then feel free to shoot me an email or ask in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get that to you. But I hope that it's a group that you'd consider joining, because the group itself is going to be an opportunity for you to strengthen your community, strengthen your support system, strengthen your sense of connectedness, and to reduce a sense of loneliness. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section below what resonated with you. What are some thoughts you'd like to challenge? If any, I'm up for a healthy debate as long as we keep it respectful. And I'd love to also hear maybe any additional tips that you have for pitfalls to avoid when establishing new relationships. Thanks so much for watching, and until I see you next time, be you, be great.